Hey. Hey, welcome. Hey, come on in. Hello, hello. Let's get going with where you're calling from, where you're dialing in from. Shout out your city or your state or your country. Happy Wednesday. Hey, T. Dallas, Georgia, Jersey, the Bahamas. Hey, North Carolina. I bet a whole lot of us wish we were in the Bahamas. Hey, London, New York, Kansas, Virginia, Paris. Hey, Paris, I'll be in your city this weekend. Long Island, Nashville, Texas, Chicago, Kansas, Louisiana, Atlanta. Come on in. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Florida. Where else do we have people calling from? Come on in. Connecticut. They want to know if you, oh, okay. If you have any questions, we answer questions here. I take about 10 minutes and answer your questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and send them in the team, Stacey at speaktostacey.com with the number 2. That's where I'm pulling the questions from. I'm so glad everybody's here, but please know that after I get started talking, I'm not going to shout everybody out individually because I like to really be mindful of the time. I really only want to take about 10 minutes because I know it's in the middle of workday, but here's what I would like for you to do. If you could either email or put it in the comments right here and now, is this a good day and time for everybody? I know a lot of people say they miss because they're at work or on their different time zone, but I know the replay is available for about 24 hours. But, you know, just kind of let me know because I'm really trying to experiment with this as far as timing, if you think this is a good time or, you know, if you have some suggestions for some other times, and we're certainly open for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I've got some great questions. Let me turn the music off. Okay. Oh, the replay is available anytime. Okay, cool. Thank you for that, T. God knows I don't know what I would do without her. So here's the first question. You are such an inspiration to women. Thank you. Can you touch on the topic of competition among women? I expect that from those of the world, but how do you handle it when it's coming from those you sit with on the pews and serve with in the church? Help us. Very interesting dynamic. Here's the first thing that I would say to you. You really have to manage your expectations of people. And unfortunately, we don't do that because so many of us that are in church, you know, we send the representative to church. So the representative is the one who wants everybody to think we're so holy, we're so saved, we glow in the dark, in our prayer closets, that we are just so got this thing together, which is not the case, clearly, as evidenced by this question. So you have to manage your expectations and recognize that just because they're in church doesn't mean they have it all figured out. They are trying to work out their issues. They are trying to get it together just like the next person. So try not to get so bothered and hurt and offended by people who are in church and recognize they have issues. They're not perfect. They're just in the perfect place to try to resolve their issues. But don't take it so personal that, okay, you're in church, you should be better. Now, we'd like to believe that with enough word, enough renewing of their mind, enough transformation, they will get to that point. But give them the grace until they get there to recognize that you manage your expectations while they try to grow. Now, here's what's unfortunate about this whole thing. And as a society as a whole, we tend to do this. And women do it so much more than men. And it bothers me because it robs us of our peace. We have bought into the hype. And there's so many subliminal messages that get women to compare ourselves. You know, you'll see a headline on one of those magazines while you're waiting in line in the supermarket. You know, are your thighs thin enough? Do you have enough of this? Do you have enough of that? And what is that doing? That's setting you up to start comparing yourself. And it's setting you up to start feeling bad about yourself. So unfortunately, we have to recognize when we almost have to deprogram ourselves to stop buying into this comparison hype. I learned a long time ago, and here's what keeps me at peace. There's always somebody more than you. What do I mean by that? There's always going to be somebody thinner than you, fatter than you, prettier than you, uglier than you, taller than you, shorter than you. You get the picture. There's always going to be that. So it's okay to just be who you are, to be who God created you to be, and be in your lane. So here's a few pointers I want to give you, because this is one of the things that I have really, really, really gotten good at through the years, and I hope this is going to bless somebody else. If it's when something blesses you, shout your hearts up so that I know that, it is actually working for you, what I'm saying. The first thing you want to do, make peace with your imperfections, because ultimately they are a distraction. Just make peace with it. This is who God created me to be, and I'm going to be okay with it. And just make peace with it, because the more you focus on your imperfections, the more distracted you become. Nobody is perfect. And just get over that. And when you can get over that and get over yourself and make peace with your imperfections, suddenly you won't find yourself getting trapped in comparisons. The next thing you want to do is you want to get focused on your purpose, because that's where your significance is found. See, when you recognize that God created you for a very specific purpose, the Bible says He numbers the hairs on your head. He has a very specific purpose that's unique to you. So you're comparing yourself, and it's not even relevant, because He did not create you to be a better version of someone else. He created you just as you are for His good pleasure and His good purpose. And when you really get that down in your spirit and you really start to recognize that, you'll say, there's nobody to compare myself to anyway. The only person I'm comparing myself with is who I was yesterday. And that'll really help you. In fact, look at what Galatians says, and I love this scripture. I'm going to actually read it to you, because if I quote it, I may misquote a word or two. Pay careful attention to your own work, for then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone else, for we are each responsible for our own conduct. If you are in your lane, doing your job, being on purpose, you know that there's no comparison, and you won't compare yourself. Now, the third thing regarding this, and she wants to know about this whole competition thing with, other women in the church. Girl, remove yourself from the game. Stop playing those silly games. You can only compete if you make yourself eligible, if you put yourself in the game. You're not playing that game. So excuse yourself from the competition game and say, you know what? I'm so busy focused on my purpose. I have no idea what you all are competing about, but I'm in my lane on purpose, being the best person that God created me to be, and I'm okay with that. Okay? So hopefully that blessed you. And I certainly hope that the people who actually send in these questions get a chance to be on this, or get a chance to see it, so that they can, get their response. Okay, here's the next question. I'm in my mid-30s. Most of my girlfriends are married with children. Oh, Lord, here we go. I've been engaged twice to the same man. Interesting, but never married him. I am currently single, and I love my singleness. Right now, I don't desire to be married or even date. Maybe one day things will change. Between my family, especially my mother and grandmother, friends and people at church, I feel pressured. I feel doomed because I'm not married. I've also had my sexuality questioned because of not being married, which I think is horrible. What is so wrong with a woman who doesn't desire to be married? It's not every woman's dream. It's not mine. What is wrong? The long and short of it, girl, nothing is wrong. Nothing at all. Now, here's the thing, and I'm going to ask you super saints out there to clutch your pearls, because what I'm about to say is really not going to sound as kind as it could. Marriage and motherhood are so overrated. They really are. Now, what do I mean by this? I'm speaking from a place of having been married for a long time, and I have given birth to a child. So I am both. I am both married and a mother. But the pressure that we put on ourselves that somehow we are incomplete, somehow our lives are meaningless, that somehow if we could just be married and have a baby, everything would all come together. That's not true. Marriage is a wonderful and beautiful thing under the right conditions, but it's so much work. Motherhood is the most thankless job you will ever have. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, and, people want to make, motherhood just the end all to be all. Do I love my child? Of course I do. Am I grateful and consider myself blessed to have him? Of course I do. But it doesn't complete you. Children take from you until they get grown, and I'm not even there yet because my son is 23 years old, and I'm not even still there yet where he's pouring back into me. The blessing is just that it's a gift from God, but you really have to put it into perspective that children and men don't complete you. God made you who you are. You are a whole person. And being a wife and a mother doesn't somehow make you more whole. And I really want women to get this so that they can be at peace and not chasing this illusion of if one day I get married, if one day I have a baby, then everything will be all right. No, it won't. Because if you're not okay as you are, your marriage is not going to be well, because it takes two whole people to come together to form a good marriage. And God knows for the financial drain, the emotional drain, the time drain that children are, if you don't feel whole and confident and good about yourself, a child is not going to bring that to you. So let's put this whole motherhood and marriage thing into its proper perspective. It's an amazing, amazing thing to be a wife and a mother, but it's not the only thing. So here's the thing. You noted that most of your friends are married with children. Well, I just did the whole thing about comparison. Good for them. God bless them. That's their path, but it's not your path. And comparison, here's the next thing about comparison. It gives you a false reality. Because if I'm comparing myself to my married friend with a child, then all of a sudden I think, oh, woe is me. I don't have that. But if she's comparing her life to my life and she's thinking, wow, she has so much more freedom, so much more less responsibility. She can be more involved. She can do more things. She can travel. She can do so many other things with her life. So comparison is always going to give you a false reality. Galatians says, and here's what I love, and this is why I'm able to be so bold about certain things, and I live with so much, peace because of this. One of my favorite scriptures is Galatians 1:10, and it says, obviously, I am not trying to win the approval of people, but of God. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be Christ's servant. Let me say that again. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be Christ's servant. What does that mean? It doesn't matter about what other people think. So whatever mama and them and grandmama and them and everybody at church thinks about you getting married and having kids, if pleasing people were your goal, why are you serving Christ? Mama and them will be okay if you are firm in your decision. Because here's the thing, and I'm going to be honest about this. You don't have to be, but I will. Some of the worst decisions you make come because you're trying to please somebody else. Some of the worst decisions. People pleasing will have you so jacked up. You'll be out on a limb trying to please people with the worst decision you could have made for your life because you're trying to please somebody else. Let that sit for a minute. You're going to think about that later on tonight. You're going to be thinking, you know what? And you'll start reflecting back over your life and you'll think about the worst decisions you made, and it'll be because you were trying to please somebody else. Now, you don't have to be honest with anybody else. Be honest with yourself. Tap the screen if you've made a horrible decision because you were trying to please other people. Now, here's a few pointers that I want to give to you. Look at it. See, the screen is tapping because people do it. I've done it. We've all done it. But it's time to be free from that, where we just go ahead and say, you know what? If pleasing people were my goal, why am I serving Christ? So let's take a look at a few pointers that can kind of help you with this. One, I would encourage you to come out of your feelings and get into your faith. You indicate that you feel doomed and you feel pressure. Your feelings right now are failing you because God didn't say you were doomed, and he didn't say you need to take on added pressure. Live in the moment, enjoy your life, get into your faith, and get out of your feelings. Think about what God says about you. He never said you were doomed. He said he's got a hope and a plan. It's a good one for you. So stop thinking about how you feel and start focusing on what you believe. The second thing to eliminate the pressure is to just get clear and firm about your position. Sometimes we're too soft and mamsy-pamsy and we're kind of willy-nilly about it, and we sit back quietly and let people say, oh, you should get married, oh, you should do this, oh, you should do that. State your position and be very clear. It's okay to be very clear and very firm. This is where I am. This is my decision. And, we expect people to honor our decisions that we make, and sometimes it doesn't happen. And we want the people that we love to honor and respect our decisions. But guess what? Be okay if they don't, because you're making a decision based on what works for you. And at some point in life, you get to the point where you say, you know what? I have to make decisions in support of myself. The third thing, and this is going to bless somebody, because I promise you I live like this. People laugh at me when they say, oh, did you see this or did you notice that? And I said, no, I didn't. I am so intentional about what I ignore. Think about that for a minute. I am intentional about what I ignore. Now, somebody's questioning your sexuality because you're not married. Just get intentional about what you ignore. You know who you are. You know what you're about. Some stuff doesn't even deserve an audience, and this would be one of them. So become more intentional about what you ignore. So if someone is questioning your sexuality, remind yourself that everything doesn't require a response, and some things are better left unsaid. Silence is a monster sometimes. The last thing is to step outside of yourself, because when you're on purpose, purpose will bless other people. And when you can step outside of yourself and not think about how you're feeling and be a blessing to others, it's amazing what that does to you. It opens you up for so many blessings. It changes your perspective. So step outside of yourself. I often say that sometimes we're too self-absorbed. We spend so much time in self that we don't get the blessing that comes from being a blessing to other people. So that's it for now. My time is up. I try to really keep this at 10 minutes. Thank you so much. Keep your questions coming in to Team Stacey at speaktostacey.com. Make sure you like my Facebook page so we can interact. Twitter, social media. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.